Britt Baker has a very real problem in front of her, and the strange thing about it is that fans, for the most part, aren't even talking about it. Maybe they should be, because this is bigger than it looks on the surface. We all know she's been on hiatus from AEW for a while now, and there are several reasons being floated around for why that's the case. Some of them are pretty standard wrestling industry issues, while others are actually a bit embarrassing, things she herself has had to respond to directly. And when you put all of it together, you see that this is a situation that could go in several directions, none of them completely certain. Britt Baker hasn't been seen on AEW television for the entirety of 2025 so far, and when you really think about it, that's a stunning reality. This is AEW we're talking about, a company whose women's division is constantly under scrutiny from fans who say it needs more consistent star power. Yet here's one of the biggest stars in the division, one of the most recognizable women in AEW history, and she hasn't wrestled since last November. Her last appearance was on the November 13th episode, and since then radio silence. It's not like she hasn't had setbacks before. She did return last year from a very serious medical scare. She actually suffered a stroke, which is alarming considering her age. That could have been the end of her career, and the fact that she was able to return at all was impressive in itself. She came back last summer and got into a fun program with Mercedes Mone, which in hindsight did a lot more for Mercedes than it did for Britt. That feud gave Mercedes Mone the lift she needed to really establish herself as a top heel in AEW. After that, though, Britt's involvement was extremely inconsistent. She'd be used on TV here and there, then suddenly disappear. There was even a teased storyline with Serena Deeb that never materialized. AEW dropped it without explanation. That's when the reports began surfacing. Word leaked out that Britt wasn't exactly beloved in the AEW locker room. Then came the rumor that during her feud with Mercedes Mone, she had a backstage issue with MJF. Allegedly, she had been talking negatively about him. His girlfriend apparently found out, told him, and MJF confronted Britt about it. Things escalated, and supposedly, Britt ended up suspended. That incident, along with other claims that she was difficult to work with, created the perception that Tony Khan was simply done dealing with her. The belief among many insiders is that Khan essentially put her on the shelf, deciding not to use her anymore, and now she's just waiting for her contract to expire. The irony here is obvious. Britt Baker is one of AEW's founding stars, part of the so-called pillars of the company. She's been one of the top women there from the very beginning, a performer who can get bigger reactions doing the bare minimum than many others can get from full matches. Even if some fans don't think much of her in-ring ability, few would deny her presence and the way she connects with the audience, especially as a heel. Yet despite all that, she's been pushed completely to the sidelines. AEW's women's division continues to lack depth in terms of over talent, and still, one of their most recognizable names is essentially iced out. Her absence from television has gone on for so long that some fans actually thought she had retired. A recent example came when she posted pictures of herself at the beach on Instagram. A fan commented, saying something like, "So, I see you're officially retired." Britt fired back by saying she was simply at the beach in Florida, where she lives. That response showed how long she's been out of the spotlight. Her inactivity has left such a vacuum that people genuinely believe her career might already be over. It's easy to pin all of this on AEW or Tony Khan, to say that they're responsible for her being perceived as retired. After all, if the company was booking her regularly, nobody would be questioning whether she was still active. Every time she's on TV, she comes off as a legitimate star. She's not always perfect, many feel her babyface work isn't strong, but when she's in full heel mode, she's among the best performers in the business. If AEW simply showcased her, there wouldn't be this perception problem. But because they've left her in the dark, the confusion grows. Still, here's where the accountability shifts toward Britt herself. This isn't only an AEW problem. There's a very real question she needs to ask herself. Does she want to sit at home, collect a paycheck, post the occasional convention appearance, and spend her time on the beach? Or does she want to actively pursue wrestling work on her own outside of AEW? If she truly cares about her future in wrestling, it may be time for her to start hitting the independent circuit again. That's how you keep your name alive in the industry when your home promotion is sidelining you. Right now, Britt seems content with the first option. She's been out of sight, not wrestling, just enjoying her life. That's fine on a personal level, she's earned the right to relax and heal, especially after her health scare. But from a career perspective, the long-term strategy isn't clear. If her mindset is that her body of work speaks for itself and that when her AEW deal expires WWE will come knocking, then perhaps she thinks she doesn't need to prove anything. But is that really realistic? WWE's women's roster is arguably the deepest and strongest it has ever been. They don't necessarily need Britt Baker. Would she be a good addition? Absolutely. She has star power, she has name value, and she'd generate buzz. But if you look at the last few years, what has she actually done? Outside of the Mercedes Mone program, her contributions have been sporadic at best. WWE might not look past that. They may decide they already have more than enough established stars and prospects without having to take a risk on someone who has been inactive for so long. If Britt is serious about ending up in WWE, or even if she wants AEW to reconsider her value, she needs to create momentum for herself. That could mean working independent shows, surprising people with appearances, reminding the industry that she's still a force. If she gets herself hot again outside of AEW, she can force the hand of whichever major company she chooses to go to next. WWE might then come at her with a significant offer, fast-track her to the main roster, and capitalize on the buzz she's created. Or AEW, seeing her stock rise again, might decide to put aside past issues and bring her back to television in a meaningful way. Either way, she wins. But sitting quietly at home does none of that. If she's just waiting for her contract to run out, she risks fading from the wrestling conversation altogether. Then, when the deal finally expires, there may not be much interest left in her. That's the danger of inactivity in this business: out of sight, out of mind. Fans move on quickly, and new stars emerge. Another element to consider is optics. From the outside looking in, companies like WWE or TNA could easily interpret Britt's current behavior as a lack of passion. If she loves wrestling as much as she's always said, why isn't she working anywhere else while benched from AEW? Why not keep her skills sharp and her brand relevant? Right now, her actions raise unnecessary questions. Does she still have the drive? Does she still want to be in the ring? Does she only care about collecting a check? Those doubts shouldn't exist for someone of her stature, yet they do because of the path she's chosen. This doesn't mean she doesn't love wrestling. Chances are she still does. But the way things look is important, especially in an industry where perception shapes opportunities. If she wants to protect her reputation and keep her options open, she needs to manage the perception better. At the end of the day, this whole situation boils down to a choice Britt Baker has to make. If she's content staying on the sidelines, enjoying life, and letting her AEW contract play out, then that's her prerogative. There's no shame in that. The money is good, the risks are low, and maybe that's the balance she wants at this stage. But if her long-term goal is to remain relevant at the top level of wrestling, then she needs to rethink her approach. Because right now, her silence and absence are doing her no favors. They're not helping her legacy in AEW, not making her more appealing to WWE, and not creating any fresh buzz among fans. In wrestling, momentum is everything. Britt Baker once had it in spades. She was the face of AEW's women's division, cutting great promos, working strong programs, and connecting with the crowd like few others. Today, that momentum has all but evaporated. The only way to get it back is to put herself out there again, to remind the world why she was considered a pillar of AEW in the first place. Otherwise, she risks becoming a forgotten name, a star who faded quietly instead of fighting to stay in the spotlight. That's the problem Britt Baker is facing right now. Not just being benched by AEW, but choosing to let that benching define her career instead of fighting against it. For her own sake, and for her legacy, she may need to start wrestling again anywhere, against anyone, to prove that she's still a major player in this industry. Because if she doesn't, then when her contract ends, the wrestling world might not be waiting as eagerly as she hopes.